And a major legal win for Henrietta Lacks' family.
Henrietta Lacks has reached a settlement over the use of the so-called HeLa cells.
Henrietta Lacks. The cells led to groundbreaking medical discoveries.
The first Immortal cell line has a complicated history.
The HeLa cells were being used for research around the world.
The Henrietta Lacks cells have been used in more than 74,000 studies for 6 decades.
At least once in your life, maybe from a high school biology textbook, you've probably heard of HeLa cells. And if you haven't, you may have taken an antiviral drug thanks to them. HeLa cells are the first human cells to reproduce indefinitely in the lab, but those 4 letters also encapsulate a story about racism, medical ethics, and massive science discoveries. But above all, a flesh and blood person whose name was Henrietta Lacks. Henrietta Lacks was born in 1920 in Roanoke, Virginia, and raised in a poor tobacco farming family in Clover. After marrying her cousin, Dale Lack, she moved to Turner Station, where she had 5 children. She was a charming mother who loved to wear red nail polish and take care of her children. But one day, after experiencing abnormal pain and bleeding, she went for a check at Johns Hopkins Hospital and came back with the diagnosis of cervical cancer. More specifically, epidermoid carcinoma of cervix, stage 1. Doctors started treating her cancer with radium, but it was during one of her first treatments where she quickly shifted from being known as Henrietta Lacks to being recognized as HeLa. Dr. Wharton, in fact, without telling her that one of his colleagues, Dr. Tillin, was collecting samples or asking if she wanted to be a donor, took a sample of her cancer, labeled with the initials of her name and surname, and sent it to the lab. This sample was thought to be just like the others analyzed in the lab. He would have survived for a few days, and then the cells would have stopped growing. But it wasn't. Henrietta's cells weren't merely surviving. They were growing and doubling at mythological intensity. And by doing that, they were starting a truly medical revolution. Unfortunately, Henrietta died due to terminal uremia, a condition caused by her tumor, which had completely blocked her urethra. But her cells kept on growing to the point where every researchers around the world had their own sample to work with. Rebecca Skloot, the author of this book, always reminds us how Henrietta used to take care of her family, especially when one of her cousins got the polio. She used to say that she wanted to fix it in some ways. Little did she know that her cells would have been crucial for the developing of the first polio vaccine. Not only, but HeLa cells helped also with cancer treatments, in vitro fertilization, cloning, and gene mapping. They were also sent to space to study the effects of zero gravity on human cells. But if the whole world seemed to know about her cells being still alive, Henrietta's family, especially her daughter, Deborah, had no idea. And while biotech companies were making billions of dollars, her family was struggling with poverty and limited access to healthcare. Her family's struggle for recognition and justice highlights the ethical failures in medical research, particularly the exploitation of marginalized communities. Henrietta was more than a scientific marvel. She was a mother, a caretaker, and a person. Her story reminds us to respect the people behind scientific discoveries and to work toward fairness and ethical behavior in medical researches.
There's one particular part of the book that deeply touched my soul, and it was the moment where they were conducting the autopsy on Henrietta's body. It's like for the first time, researchers were confronted with Henrietta as a person, and not just HeLa. One of them said, "When I saw those toenails, I nearly fainted. I thought, oh geez, she's a real person. I started imagining her sitting in a bathroom, painting those toenails, and it hit me for the first time that those cells we've been working with all of this time and sending all over the world, they came from a live woman. I never thought of it that way."